Star Wars, the deck building game. This set is for 2 players. It clearly seems to be like an introduction to a system that is planned to grow and to be expanded later. And I read somewhere that this game was gonna be similar to Star Realms, but with a Star Wars theme, which seemed awesome to me because I love Star Realms. That's one of my favorite deck building games. Now with a Star Wars theme, maybe some other elements that make it more thematic, seemed like a slam dunk, so hooray. Now, we are gonna have, of course, a mechanic that reflects the Force, because that's super important. There's this tracker here. So, of course, I should say 2 players, Rebels versus the Empire. And there's gonna be a tracker that records where the Force is. The Force starts with the Rebel all the way there, and if the Force is with you at the beginning of a turn, is all the way with you at the beginning of a turn, then you collect a resource. Yay! These cubes are used for various functions. There are also game effects that are triggered if in any case the Force is with you, meaning it is on your side of the tracker, whether or not it is all the way there. It may also be there, so that means no one has the Force on their side. And there will be game effects that will move this constantly. But again, it starts all the way with the Rebels. You're gonna have bases. This is always your starting base, and then there are other ones that will be activated when this one is destroyed. This is how many damage points it takes to destroy a base. And the point of the game is to destroy enough bases, and the number depends on you. You can have different numbers of bases for a longer or shorter game. But again, destroy the last base in the set controlled by a player, and you win the game. Deck building, so you're gonna start with a deck which is not particularly exciting, and you're gonna try to make it better as you go. This is the starter deck for the Rebels. A card may generate a number of damage points. There may be a game effect, not many of those in the starting deck. A card may generate resource points. Again, remember those cubes that are used to buy cards. The number that you see here is a 0 in the starter cards, but it will be an actual cost in cards that you can acquire later from the Galaxy row. And then you got a card in the starter deck which is a little more flexible, because you can choose to spend it for a damage or resource or a force, pulling the Force by 1 in your direction. And so you will have your hand of cards that you will play to inflict damage on the opponent. If their base is open, you can choose to attack it directly. During the game, players may acquire capital ships that will be hanging in front of the base, so if you choose to use the damage generated by your cards to attack, well, that area, you need to destroy the capital ships first, and you can use damage tokens to keep track of how much damage you inflicted on a ship in case you weren't able to destroy it entirely. And then, of course, you also use those to keep track of the damage. You may take a couple of hits to chip away at a base early on. Later on, there will be combos that are so powerful they just destroy a single base in a single attack. I've seen that happen more than once. You can also use your damage points to interact with cards in the Galaxy row, which is the row of cards that can be acquired again or destroyed that goes in the middle of the table. It's 6 cards that come out of the deck. As you can see, you place them in different orientations because some of those cards may be neutral, in which case they are placed like 90 degrees so that no one can look at them comfortably. So that would be the card that would be a neutral card. Either player can acquire it by paying that amount of money. I'm showing it to you this way because that's how it looks to both players as you play the game. And the same for the Twi'lek Smuggler, with also some interesting abilities that you can acquire. The idea, like many other deck building games, is that you pay the cost, you acquire a card, the card goes in your discard pile, and it'll go back into your hand when you shuffle the deck and you draw it from your draw deck. A card may also belong to a specific faction, such as these cards for the rebels or for the empire, and they will be placed in the central row facing the owning player. So the card that belongs to your faction and is facing you, you can acquire. You spend that number of resources and you put in your discard pile and you get it later. However, the most innovative mechanic that I found here, I don't remember seeing in other deck building games, is that the faction cards, not the capital ships, but the other faction cards, while they have a main effect facing the owning player, whoopsie, they also have an upside down little effect printed at the bottom. They'll be facing you as the card is in the galaxy row and facing the opponent. So if I'm the rebel, the empire player is looking at that effect that they may gain, and I'm looking at that effect that I gain if I destroy that card, because I can use my attack points, my damage points, to attack enemy cards in the central row. And although, again, the opponent is looking at their effects, they're also, trust me, they're also looking at the effect that I get, the reward that I get if I destroy. There are many cards that are not so good to add to your deck, but they may give really good rewards to the opponent if they destroy. And so sometimes you have the dilemma there. Should I buy this card, which is going to make my deck weaker and less effective, but I don't want the opponent to get that. So what it all comes down to is that on your turn, you play cards from your hand in different combinations in different order, and then you can use the resources that you had in different orders. Again, you can buy stuff, destroy, use your damage points to attack the base of the opponent or the capital ships of the opponent if they have any. You can use your damage points to attack enemy cards in the galaxy row, if there are any, because it may be that there aren't any. Some cards will have game effects, then you just tap, you tilt the card slightly to indicate that you use that effect that round. So pretty much play your hand of cards and do all that you can with your resources and with your damage points, and continue like this, turn after turn, until a player has destroyed enough bases of the opponent to claim victory. I played the first game. After the first game, I was like, well, I liked it well enough, but I didn't love it the way I thought. Maybe it'll grow on me. Then I played it 2 more times, and I liked it less every time. So, bit of disappointment there. Again, Star Realms with Star Wars, to me, that's not a negative. For some of you, it might be, but I'm just mentioning that. The game doesn't feel very thematic, sadly, doesn't feel asymmetrical enough. When you have Empire versus the Rebellion, I expect more asymmetry. And there are the games by the same publisher, incidentally, that do capture that asymmetry. Star Wars Rebellion, Star Wars the card game, where you really have the tension between the gargantuan Empire war machine and the hit and run lean tactics of the rebels. But here both sides will build massive fleet in front of their bases, attacking a rebel base. The rebels are taking their stand with their massive fleets, and it will take a while for the Empire to destroy them. I don't remember that happening very often in Star Wars. When you're found, you better get the heck out of there. There are several characters from Rogue One here, and they are very good at forcing the Empire player to discard cards. Sure, the importance of sabotage, again, in Star Wars, may help with an operation here or there, but here it can get very powerful. I have the sense that the Empire is completely strangled and starving because the Rogue One rebels have deprived it of agency entirely, which is weird. So on one hand, there are some elements where I expected asymmetry, and it's not there. in the times that they do it, when there is asymmetry, I didn't enjoy that very well, the way it's implemented, because it is through some really powerful, mighty, swingy cards. Very swingy. Again, it makes sense thematically that Darth Vader is going to cut through a lot of enemies, and so is Luke Skywalker. But if an opponent is able to get some of those mighty cards, and you're not, then just a couple of cards in a lean deck will become unbeatable, and that makes for a pretty anticlimactic conclusion. So the thematic element is kind of like done wrong in terms of gameplay. I like a game which is thematic and also still playable. And the fact that the game is so swingy is also based on the fact that what was the most promising mechanic to me, attacking cards in the Galaxy row, turned out to be a problem, actually, precisely because of this. Because if you get Darth Vader and you kill my Luke Skywalker, my Leia from the center row, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough for me. And here it comes to another issue. In a deck building game, wait for it, I like to build my deck. I like to buy cards all the time. And building cards becomes very scary here after you realize how the game works. Because suppose it's the end of my turn and I just buy my card with using all the resources that I have and there's nothing else I have to do. I buy my card and a new one comes out which is a super powerful card for you and you get it. And then later on you win the game because of that, because it can't happen that way, that brutal. So after a while, people start seeing the incentive of not buying cards anymore. People, at least my friend and I, realized that if you wanted not to lose, you would buy a card if only you have other resources saved, so that in case it's a good card of the opponent, I can destroy, and it's a good card of mine, I can acquire it because I don't want you I don't want to destroy it. Including the fact that I mentioned that some cards are better destroyed than acquired. And the dilemma that I hinted at in the main segment, should I buy this card, which is really annoying, it dilutes my deck, it makes the game take longer, but I don't want you to take the advantage of destroying it, which can be very good. It's not that fun of a dilemma, because again, I want a dilemma between two things that are equally awesome, as opposed to avoiding two things that are equally annoying. That's not the best dilemma that you have in gameplay. So, and I've seen this, and again, the cards that are in there, the asymmetry is that some cards are super good, some cards are not particularly good. Several of these neutral cards, independent cards that both players can acquire, but no player can destroy, are not very good. And so I've seen at least 2 out of the 3 games that I play. At the end, there were almost only independent cards, scum and villainy kind of cards in the center row, because no one wanted them. And so then the space of decision become really narrow. There is one card that comes out, and again, people are scared because, like, well, I'm not going to buy a card because I can't allow the random mechanic to put a good card out there for you. So in deck building games that I like, there are many paths to victory. There are many different things to consider. Here, the space of decision narrows down considerably as the Galaxy row becomes full of cards that are not particularly good. There is an optional rule that says, but you can remove those useless common villainy cards from the center. Sure, but we're back to the problem. If I remove one of those, there may be a really good one that comes out that you're gonna need and helps you win the game. So again, even that rule doesn't fix that problem. Even that rule makes it you're still in a situation where there are many turns in which you're not gonna spend all that you could because you're scared of what may come out in the center row. So the most original departure of this set from Star Realm, which is the idea of attacking cards in the middle for a reward, makes the game less interesting and less playable. And I just felt myself during my third game just really wanted to go back to Star Realms because the two games have so many things in common. But in Star Realms, first you have more factions with more variety of gameplay, different synergies that are equally good, and you're excited about building your deck through the entire game. Here you're gonna build it with some of those cards, and then it becomes just like crossing your fingers and hoping for that super powerful card to come out. The capital ships, these ginormous walls of capital ships, only make the game longer. Because that's what they do. You gotta destroy them before you get to the base. They make it longer, but they don't make it better. So unfortunately, I found this to be a longer, a lot more random-based version of Star Realms. So other than because of the pretty art, which is pretty, I really don't know why I would get this to the table when I could play Star Realms and it takes less time and I feel the strategy is more rewarded, and again, and gameplay is more fun because I don't have the situation of not wanting to buy cards because there's nothing interesting, and I'm afraid that by buying a card I'm gonna give you a bigger advantage. This is my disappointed assessment of Star Wars: The Deck Building Game.